I was a lawyer for those who didn't have legal representation but needed it. I learned in law school that there were two different sets of laws, that for the poor and that for the rich. And I thought it might be interesting and fun to try to make the two equal.
Chris grew up on the Eastern Shore in rural Delaware, and I think that made a difference in how he viewed civil rights. It was personal for him, and it has always been personal for him.
He was not interested in the judgeship, he was interested in justice. And from the moment I met Chris up until now, that's been the kind of person he's been, one very much interested in justice for everyone.
The good thing about this kind of law is that it involves people.
Most of the clients that he represented could not have afforded an attorney on their own, and there was no guarantee these cases would win, but I believe he was just committed to it.
If you were rich, you didn't have to do anything to win, but if you're poor, you could almost never win.
Chris set out to change the social landscape, and he did all that.
It was like stepping back in time. It was unbelievable, some of the stories that we heard and the kind of conditions that people were living under at that time.
Chris enforced the Voting Rights Act over on the Eastern Shore where it had never been enforced before.
Despite the fact that the population was about 40% black. So 40% black versus 60% white, but zero in terms of who got elected.
It's a long, lasting legacy because those men and women he helped to come into public office will be there for a long time.
The African American people were afraid that they would be fired, lose their jobs, if they did anything that was detrimental to the white man's wishes.
Individuals who was out of power, had no seat at the table, was given a seat at the table.
And now there are African Americans in every local government, and it makes a huge difference in the confidence that African Americans have in their elected officials.
Arguing before the Supreme Court is very nerve-wracking. Two of the three cases I argued dealt with the rights of illegitimate children. Illegitimate children have often been discriminated against, and it's really not fair that they have been because they didn't do anything to make themselves illegitimate children. These people that are suffering from lead paint are the poorest of the poor, and it feels good to be able to help them out.
When a young attorney looks at Chris Brown, they see a model of somebody who can do a lot in many different areas.
I just think that Chris's legacy is one of permanent change.
Its headquarters was a little dingy room out in Towson Strip Mall. It had a telephone that didn't work, and it had two cases on its case log.
We've gone from 2 staffers to 20. He opened an Eastern Shore office. He was responsible for the kinds of cases we took.
And ever since that time, I think the ACLU has really moved down the road at a fast pace, and it is now one of the best in the country.
The ACLU was the most effective civil rights organization in the state of Maryland, bar none.
You can almost say that a day doesn't go by when you don't hear on the radio or in the print media references to ACLU.
They know that when we say there's something wrong that needs to be righted, we're serious about it.
I guess ACLU plaintiffs, clients, are gutsier people than the ordinary person on the street because they're willing to come forward.
Without the ACLU, the kind of progress that we've seen in the state of Maryland, not in the last 10 years, but in the last 30 years, would not have occurred without the ACLU. And Chris Brown was a part of that legacy. He was the person that made it possible.
Chris is just an extraordinary person who is, on the one hand, a good mentor, on the other hand, a good friend, and finally, he's a great model for all of us who want to live life well and be able to look back and say, we changed the social and political landscape.